to Recovering Your Voice Summer Shorts. My name's Bonnie,
And I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Collette.
and today we're investigating collecting things. Why do people collect, and what do we collect, each of us? So I'm going to start first, though, with an article that I found on collecting. So the article I found is by Megan Cooper, and I'll put it in the description below, but she gives 9 common reasons why people collect things. So the very first one that she says is sentimental attachments. Wow, do I do this? I collect for sentimental reasons. I carry and hang on to a lot of things because I just can't get rid of them because, oh, well, so-and-so gave me this, or I remember when they gave me this, or this was important because. So sentimental attachments is number one. The second thing is to connect to our childhoods. And I'm guilty of this one as well. So collecting things that maybe were important to you when you were a child, and you want to hang on to those, say a collection of dolls is one of the examples that they give. So number 2, connecting to your childhood. Number 3, we collect things to gain more knowledge and to learn about something new. I'm not sure that this applies to me, but maybe it applies to you. And it says that each item tells a story about the person who collected it, the period it was purchased in, and what it meant to the original owner. So an example of this might be a person who collects antiques and then the stories that go behind them. Number 4, which is similar, is to connect with the past. So often collectors are fascinated with history. So they might have from a specific time period or a specific person in history that they might collect. Or even, I would look at it kind of as people who collect sports memorabilia about a particular person. Number 5 reasons for collecting things is for pleasure and enjoyment. And I have one of these that I still collect, and I'll share in a little bit. Number 6 is to make a future investment. So I know people who have done this. They collect maybe paintings because they think it might be something that would be worthwhile in the future. So they might hang on or contribute or start collecting somebody's famous works or not so famous works yet, in hopes that they will become famous in the future. Number 7, for the community it creates. I never really thought of this, but sharing with others who have the similar collection, and then the community that happens around this. So I do know that my dad and my stepmom for a while collected things. And it was a type of pottery, or yes, I guess pottery or dishes, and it was antique, but they also had community because they would go from weekend to weekend to flea markets to collect it, and it became a way of life, and it gave them so much enjoyment when they, would hunt for the next item that they wanted in their collection. Number 8 in the reasons why people collect things is for recognition and prestige. So there's collectors who want recognition for putting together the best collection of something. And number 9, the thrill of the hunt. People collect things to add to their collection, and it's the thrill of getting that last item. So there's a few on this list that I can relate to, but a few that aren't. How did you do? How did you do? So let's go to the ladies and find out, what do they enjoy collecting?
When Bonnie sent me this question, this episode topic, it was like, I got a lot of stuff. It's just not a common thing going through this stuff. It's not a collection per se. Although I think my husband and son would beg to differ when they had to move all the books I had. But that's just entertainment. Okay, so that was on one of the list of entertainment. Then Bonnie, the wise friend she is, gently reminded me that there is a common denominator through everything I collect. And I collect memories. I collect the stories behind what I keep. And I remember when my dad broke camp, like sold his camp, and we were packing him up and that. And my brother was there and I was there, and we were helping him pack up. And he'd say, "Hey, Collette, do you want this? It's an antique." And I would say to him, "What's the story behind it? Is there a story? Did my mayor own it? Did you own it? What is the story behind it?" And he'd say, "Oh no, it's an antique." I said, "Oh, Jack's Antiques. I'm the stories." And I would get Dad to let him know that Jack enjoyed the antiques. To me, it was the story behind it. Bonnie, number 6, about collecting things that might grow in value. That was my dad. He collected things like the $2 bill because it was going to go out. And he collected, we will put a picture, but Mountie quarters. So guess what, guys? I collect Mountie quarters. Not because so much the memory, but because I owe my dad it. When he would collect the Mountie quarters, there was 4 teenagers in the house in school that had vending machines. Now, don't judge me. My walk wasn't what it was now. So it's like they disappeared, and Dad kept wondering why his collection never grew. So when, I grew in the Lord and got conviction, every time one of these would come into my path, I would go, "Dad, I owe you this." And I'd go, "Here, Dad, this is yours." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "I owe you it." He goes, "No, you don't." I said, "Trust me, I owe you it." So when Dad passed away, we have a keepsake box, and we were connecting once a year to just connect the siblings, connect to celebrate Dad's life. And we would bring certain things to the box to collect for Dad. And you want to believe there's some Mountie quarters in there. And there is also a Star Trek little icon because my dad loved Star Trek. When the ambulance guys were talking to him and they were asking Andy, "What day is it today?" I told them they were asking the wrong question. They should ask what episode of Star Trek was on today. My dad thought Star Trek was a documentary, don't you know? Just teasing, but that's how intense it was. Okay, so collecting like that, we would collect the box. So that would be under the memories, Bonnie, which I totally get. So for me, it's the memories behind it. And I will prove that by when I met Danielle. I met him in college, as everybody knows, and we would both volunteer to do dishes together. And unbeknownst to me, he would watch me walk away and I'd watch him walk away after we were both interested in each other. And this is what I remember on him. Enough said. This is a back pocket, and that's all I'm going to say, okay? I used to watch this walk back and forth. So this is older than, this is 40 years old, people. What is my problem here, right? So memories are very important to me. The ring that I'm wearing, my dear friend Joanne gave me the ring. And my dear friends from Thursday Ladies, one of the claws were missing. So they, unbeknownst to me, did a collection and brought it into the jewelry store to have it fixed so I wouldn't be afraid to wear it. But the crazy thing is, guys, I kept the tags that she put my name on. I love the ring, but that Joanne chose to do this for me is a memory for me. So I think I collect emotions. I think I collect memories. And so thank you, Bonnie, for educating me. I'm going to take note of that a little bit more.
This was an education for me today because I don't consider myself a collector, but after hearing the article, I realize that I do hang on to some things. I have a scarf that belonged to my mother and that she used to wear, and it's just an ordinary not a winter scarf, but like a decorative scarf that she might have worn around her neck. I never wear it, but it's in my drawer and I keep it, and I will likely never let it go because it reminds me of my mother. And it's special in that way. Aside from that, when I thought about it, I realized that I actually am collecting stamps in my passport. Sometimes it's fun when Dave and I are going on a trip to page through the current passport and see the passport stamps. And it's just something we chuckle about, but it's just interesting. And I would never have thought that I'd be the person traveling, because I'm not much of a traveler. I like being at home, actually, but we've been doing a lot of traveling, and more than people who enjoy traveling. So it's who would have thought that here we are traveling. But anyways, that's another thing that I thought about. And I also thought, when Bonnie asked about do we have any collections and what do we collect and why, I thought, I'm not really a collector. And why is that? And I thought about, I love some things. In fact, whenever I see a store that has linens or things like that, I love to go in and check it out. I love old linens and old china and things like that. And maybe because it reminds me of my mother and my grandmothers. But last fall, when my son and I were preparing to visit home, his first time in 10 years, and because we would be staying with my sister, I like to think of a housekeeping gift. So I found on a local marketplace where someone was selling an antique porcelain platter. And that was from France, and it had all over it hand-painted purple flowers. It was beautiful. And I thought, oh, this is beautiful, beautiful platter. My sister will love this. So I picked it up, and the trip got canceled because my son got sick and we don't want to carry anything home. So we canceled the trip. Then this beautiful antique platter was sitting on my buffet ever since then. And I got to enjoy it for months. And I thought, it's so beautiful. It's so pretty. And it was sitting next to another platter of mine that we use for Christmas dinner and stuff like that, an old blue and white Wedgwood one. And so the thought was there, it's so pretty, like, but I met my sister recently and carefully wrapped it all up because I thought, no, my sister will love this platter. So I gave it to her because we're going to be staying with her. The trip is back on, and it's the housekeeping gift again. She opened it up. She loved it. She said, oh, I was looking at a platter recently like this, and I just, chose not to get it. And she was, a little bit edgy when the bubble wrap cracked open, a few bubbles, and she thought, that meant the platter was damaged or something. So I knew that she really appreciated. And the reason why I especially wanted to give it to her is because one trip that she took was to France, and she brought home from her trip lavender filled linen sachet pouches that you put in your drawer, for the smell to be on your clothing. And it had embroidered on the front the purple lavender. So I didn't know the flowers, the purple flowers on the hand painted platter, but it reminded me of the trip that she had and where she brought home the lavender gifts. So I said that to her, and she said, "Oh no," she said, "these flowers are called," because she's keen in the garden. So she knew what the flowers were. I didn't, but she loved the platter. And so afterwards, I felt good that I passed it on and shared it with her. So I like to share nice things.
My question, Carol Ann, is have you ever counted how many stamps you have in that passport?
No. And this is the second passport now that we are working on. So we had passports in the old one that expired, a number of passports there, stamps, sorry, a number of stamps. And now this one is getting filled up with stamps too. And some countries that we have traveled to, they don't stamp your passport. They just give you a printed, it's like a mini visa. But most others have stamped the passport. So no, I haven't counted, but I do like to page through because some of them are actually pretty pictures. It's not just what we would think of as, an ink stamp. So it's fascinating.
Thank you, ladies. That's really great. Well, I'm kind of your typical person for collections because I started collecting when I was a child. I don't have the same collections, but I've always been a collector. And my husband might say that I'm like my mom in that I, almost have become, I can't throw anything away, but I'm learning. I'm learning to give things away and to throw things away and sort and clean and, declutter. But when I was a kid, I collected things, the typical things kids collect. Rocks. I always was intrigued with rocks. So I would collect little pebbles. When we went to Florida, I remember when I was around 10, we went to the beach and we collected shells. And I hung on to those shells and I would look at them and just marvel at them, for years later. I also collected stamps. And the reason was that my mom had, I think they came from my grandmother, some old stamps. And so I kind of just became aware of stamps on different envelopes that we would get, different letters, and I would cut them out and start collecting them. So I have a book of stamps. I no longer add to, but I still have that collection. I also collected spoons. Does anybody out there remember when that was the thing to do? So it started again with my grandparents. They went on a tour in Europe and they brought back a special souvenir spoon from each of the countries. And that started me in on collecting spoons. So then when we went, we took a trip as a family and we went across the United States. So every state that I was in, I collected a different spoon. So I had quite the collection. But of course, then you have to dust it and you have to find a place to hang it and so on and so on. So it's no longer on the wall and it's no longer a collection. I also had, out of that same trip my grandparents took, I believe, they brought back some dolls from different ethnicities. And so I started a small collection of dolls at that time too. So collecting was always kind of in my blood, so to speak. But now, as an adult, if we fast forward, people started collections for me. And that might sound a little strange, but I'll explain. So, because of my interest in music, people started giving me gifts of music items, in particular, miniature pianos, because I played the piano. So I have quite a collection of all kinds of different sizes and shapes and colors and types of pianos. And it sort of became a challenge for people to find a different one for me. And so I'll post a picture right here so you can see it. So I have those. And, it does give me a great deal of joy to look at that collection of pianos and remember, either where we bought it, myself or my husband bought it, or someone who gave it to me. And I have one particular piano that I recall my sister made me out of toothpicks when she was a teenager, and so that is very precious to me. I remember a tiny miniature piano. It was the smallest one I'd have, and it was when I was with my mom on one of the last trips that we went together with her friends to an antique show. My mom loved going to antique shows. And so that's a special memory. So when I look at, those pianos, I see, like Collette does, the memories behind them, the special treasured moments for those little pianos. So now as an adult, my favorite things to collect are, first of all, I love to collect photographs. And I take a great deal of time. My son always laughs at me. He said, "Mom, Google will do that for you." But I like to put my pictures into albums on my iPad. So I collect pictures of, special friends, special family members, myself and my husband, my husband and my son, special places I like to visit, my special places like outdoor pictures that just make me feel good. When I can't be out on the water, I'll look at my kayak pictures. Or if I'm stuck in the wintertime and I want to see the beautiful outdoors, but it's too cold, I'll look through my outdoor pictures. So I collect photographs. I also love to collect quotes. Quotes are very important to me. And I found out that my mother and her mother, so my grandmother, both collected quotes from things. So from people. So when my grandmother passed away, my mom and her sisters were going through her things, and my grandmother had cut out, because back in those days you didn't have the iPad, of course, or the internet, and so she would cut out quotes that she found or poems that she found in newspapers, and she had all kinds of collections of those. And when we went through my mother's things when she passed away, she had written all kinds of quotes that she had found and little quirky things or memories or sayings or poetry. And I find myself doing the same, only I collect them on my iPad. So quotes are really important to me and very significant. And I think along with that, I collect scriptures. So just like I put my photos into special albums, I put my scriptures into certain categories. So I'll have prayers for the morning, or scriptures for the morning, scriptures for the night, scriptures that I pray for certain people, scriptures to pray, for some of my ailments like my Parkinson's. So I collect scriptures and I put them into sometimes on my iPad in certain areas or certain groupings, but I also write them out. I love to write out scripture. And so I put those in a daily journal or prayer book. So, what do you collect as our viewers? Do you have an odd collection that you have? Do you have anything that you can relate to that we've shared today? Maybe you aren't a collector or don't think you're a collector, but there might be something that you do collect. So we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to share that with us, you can write us at recoveringyourvoice@gmail.com, or you can put a comment in the comment section below. But until next time, please keep sharing your stories. I'm going to start off with, why do people collect things? And the article is the 9 common reasons that people collect.
Oh,
And then maybe they'll see what's wrong with me and what's not wrong with Caroline. About collecting.
maybe if I turn down my volume, would that work? Tell me, guys, okay? Just a second.
You could still
Can you
hear
hear it?
Yeah.
You can still hear?
Yep.
This does not work. False advertising. This is not safe with Collette. It says it's off and it's not.
Straighten up. Oh, my glasses keep catching on there. And so then one's up and one's down. She must be putting them outside, do you think? This is funny, talking to 2 people who are muted.
It is funny. It's a little weird.
For you guys, maybe. The thrill
But we
never
could just-
stops here, I'll tell you.
We just see you moving along, but the picture's not changing in the background.
I wish life went that way. I truly do. Okay, but dogs still have to go potty. Enough said. Not happening. Let's try that again. Okay. Okay. So much so that he
Never a dull moment on recovering your voice. There she goes.
She's so busy.
but for me, it's the. Give me that. I took the soother. It's a soother, not a ball. Okay, let's try that again. Well, I was thinking we have you to thank, Bonnie, for the background picture for recovering your voice. That was a picture you took.
Yeah, one of my collections. Sunrise. I collect sunrise pictures, sunset pictures. Yeah. Yeah. You don't think of, photographs as being a collection, but I really do think that I use it in that way. Yeah.